Happy Sunday, the 18th of January, 2026. How are my favorite people doing in the trading community? Hopefully well. I'm a day late in getting this out because I was traveling yesterday, but nonetheless, let's get into our outlook for next week moving forward in the indices, metals, and stocks. All right, guys. So first of all, tomorrow's Martin Luther King Day. The stock markets are closed. However, CFDs and futures are both running. So the indices will halt at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, reopen at 6, and then metals will halt at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, holding at 6, and that's both CFDs and futures. Let's get into indices, guys. The NASDAQ, so this line here is from 2 Fridays ago, and I said that we're going to run between this resistance zone and the all-time high anchored VWAP, which is exactly what we did this week. And I think that this continues until the markets make a decision. Although with the tariff talk with Europe over this fight over Greenland, I have more downward bias right now than I have upward bias. So we're going to see this. It's going to make a decision either down or up, right? And right now, I think the greater chance is down with any time Trump enters into a tariff war. If we head down, guys, I would expect to see this level. Right here's our next near-term support in the NASDAQ at 24,700. When we look at price lower than that, we have 24,000 and then just below that. But this is a critical anchored VWAP off of the drop back in August. And I think it's the next support level. The tariffs being imposed are not as large as what was being done before, but the markets could react negatively to it. So watch this all-time high anchored VWAP for support. And I'll set our Friday band right here so we have it. That way we know. You can see how it's a vertical line, and I like to send it behind. If you want to learn how to do this, you go visual order, send it back. What that does then is now you can see the full width of the candle in there. SPX, same thing, guys. I said that we're going to hit this resistance box and probably be rejected. It was a very significant resistance box at 7,000. I said this in our last one. You can see that it ran up, touched the box, and now is being rejected. If we get a sell-off, again, all-time the previous or first all-time high anchored VWAP is probably the price target at 6,800. Now we do have a new all-time high, so we need to set that VWAP. So I'm zooming in. You can see it's this candle here. So you grab an anchored VWAP, you set it there, and it is right there. We closed below it. Now it's hard to see because of the daily. So what you do is you zoom in on the fractals. We're going to just go to the hourly, and now we can see that all-time high anchored VWAP here. Now, interestingly enough, it anchored to the wrong one, so I'm going to take that off. It's actually that candle there. So I'm going to get a little more accurate with that. There it is. And you can see right where my cursor is, that is the all-time high. So we closed below that. So any sell-off, again, we called this strong resistance zone. I didn't think it would break the first time. Matter of fact, the traders who shorted made a lot of money on the way down here for a short. Typically, then, if we've closed below this all-time high anchored VWAP, we search for price support. We have price support at 68.80, and then we have that previous high down here at 68.25. So more than likely, if we saw if that's what we're going to head to, I don't see us popping up and breaking through this with some of the stuff going on with tariffs. That is currently the resistance zone. So sells are in effect on thesis until it stabilizes, but more than likely, when we get a good discount and find a good support level, that'd be an opportunity to buy back in. The Russell 2000 with January effect. Let me go back out to the daily. Remember, I said January effect more often than not, year over year. There's been more years that the Russell 2000 has ran in January small caps than hasn't. So if we go to last Friday, right here, and we move that visual order to the back so we can see that whole candle. This was the before we said we had to break that all-time high. It did, and then look at the momentum. Momentum was strong. This was a red zone, but once we flipped it on Monday and held it on Tuesday. This zone is now support. So what was once resistance is now support, and then it's running back up to this next or new resistance zone. And where did the doji get thrown? Say it with me, guys. Dojis occur at key levels. So this is our next resistance zone to break. What I would anticipate if markets sell down, we get trapped in this pricing here, right? We get trapped before to make a decision upward or downward. And you want to watch the development of this previous all-time high anchored VWAP because that will be the lower limit there. Um, and then since we do have a new all-time high, we need to zoom in to a very small fractal because I'm not sure when it happened here. And we find it and we create so it can develop out over the next several trading days. I'm in on the 15-minute. Zoom in, and it's this candle here. This is the all-time high that occurred at 1:30 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time on Friday. So we set an anchored VWAP there. I like to use red, and there you go. So again, I think price gets trapped here. Negativity's not going to set an all-time high. At 2,700 short, and the Russell is still valid. And we only take it for a few points. But at all-time highs, we can take it for more than a few, and you can trail it down. All right. Let's get into NVIDIA. So I've expressed these concerns about NVIDIA with the negative news coming out. Are they cooking their books? And then you're getting rotation of money and contracts over to Google. Uh, we had bought this. I called this buy in April of 2025 between $90 and $105. We sized in multiple times. And you can see that I had told you in our last meeting, my stop loss was here at this red line. And of course, you can see that I exited and realized about 90% profit on that trade. I would like to stay into it longer. However, you have to pay yourself for being right. If this thing runs to $250, it won't hurt my feelings. I made a lot of money in it, but I think it's going to struggle now. We closed below the all-time high anchored VWAP again, and it's just going to oscillate around there. And the next discount range is 168 and then down at 159. Personally, I'm not interested in buying Google unless there's a significant, or NVIDIA, unless there's a significant drop at this point. Which leads me to the newest one I've added to the report is Google. Lots of reports, guys, that Google's going to be taking their NVIDIA's market share with Meta, and now they're signing a deal with Apple because Series AI is absolute garbage. So Apple wants access to Gemini's AI capabilities, and it begs the question: well, Google is Pixel and Android, it doesn't matter. They're going to get part of this Apple market share. So the all-time high is right here at 341. Let's set up just a line there for now. And we're getting a bit of a discount. I believe that if we sell off with the markets, right? Because remember, if the indices sell down, the baskets of stocks within the indices will also, so we will look for discounts. But I think the thesis is very strong here for Google. So looking to maybe rotate and size in. My first immediate box here of interest is pricing between 298 and 320. All right, so what I've done here, you can see these anchored VWAPs, I set them on every drop, right? So 300 is a psychological pricing, and you can see it pairs with its last drop. So price sets a support and resistance often. So that's paired at about 298 with that. And then we have every time it's thrown back, I set an anchored VWAP on the retraction. You can see that it's now formed this really nice zone. There are other indices or indicators that I use when I'm doing this. I just clean the charts up for you when I do this. I bring in volume at price, I bring in point of control. I look at vertical volume on the bottom. I look at Fibonacci's. I look at momentum indicators, RSI, MACD, tricks, price, volume, ADX lines. And then a lot of that is factored right into this simple color coding system that I have here. And you can see momentum is strong. So I want to just get a discount to start sizing in. And I think that near term is in this green box. As you can see, it's been on a really nice uptrend. This is the all-time high anchored VWAP, and I think this is, which one is it? the 2022 post or the low post their split in 2022. I don't think we see 160 unless we have a catastrophic failure in the markets, but I do think we see a discount in this range. I'm not going to put my entire lot in that, but I will start sizing in. So there's Google for you in my area of interest, 300 to 320. Palantir, we've been price monitoring it. Like I said, from the previous Friday, it ran up over and then failed the all-time high anchored VWAP, and then this is a strong volume push down. The all-time high anchored VWAP is 178. We have price support at 166, and I still like this green box, which we have to lift it. Why am I lifting it? Because volume weighted average price is calculated up, and then I also like this wick. So if for some reason we get a sell-off and can grab in around 145 to 150, 147, 151, somewhere in there, I think is a great buying opportunity. If that occurs, we can take a position with a stop loss just on the other side and then run it back up to where the all-time high anchored VWAP would be, which it would be lower than that because it'll calculate down. That would be a good trade plan. And then if you want to hold it long, you have to stay outside of that rejection at the all-time high and wait for it to pierce back through. So there is Palantir. If that was too fast, you can always hit rewind on the video. Oklo. So we've introduced some new ones into my charts this week. The AI thesis is strong. You want to know where all the all-time highs are on these. And you can see that's up to 193. Oklo, from the previous time that I've talked about it, I didn't talk about it on video. It's price trapped between my buy zone and that all-time high anchored VWAP, right? So as this begins to wedge or forms a pressure cooker, and then a volumetric spike helps decide its way out, which if you're betting on AI, that's where you want it to head. So my buy zone and resistance zone haven't changed for this, although it's new to this report for you guys. I do analytics for multiple groups on this. I think the buy zone here is, $75, give or take a couple, $3, $4 either side of that. It is a zone. You want to follow that VWAP, which is $76. And then you have major resistance right here at about $110. Let's only make it the all-time high. And remember, guys, why do I make them wide? Because there's standard deviations among psychological positioning in and around these areas, right? So they're soft zones. It's not hard pricing, right? So we have to wait to buy discount here or buy breakout confirmation and hold here. In other words, this broke but did not hold. So we need it to close one candle above for aggressive, second candle close for conservative confirmation. How do you like my candles, guys? Those are pretty ugly, aren't they? But you get the idea. Same thing down here. All right. So that's what I would be looking at Oklo. MP Metals, guys, is a buy. It's confirmed that from the last time we talked about it. This was the trade plan that I gave the folks that follow me. Right here, you can see it. Buy in around 51, run it to the all-time high anchored VWAP and the breakout VWAP, which provided strong resistance. You don't believe me? Look, the first time it ran through, it pierced it, got sold off, and then satisfied the auction there, and then closed above, retest. So because that is the support and or the resistance zone, you can see that it broke through it, closed above it, come down to confirm it, rose above it, confirmed it a second time. So this is looking like a buy. So the next trade plan would be buying in around near that VWAP, stop loss just below these wicks here. If you want to be wider, you can use that wick. But then I would say we're going to run back up into this resistance zone, and which consists of the gap. Gaps create price support and resistance, or to the all-time high. So TP1 somewhere in this box, TP2 up here with a tight stop loss, using this breakout candles wick, just a percentage below it as your stop loss, which is like 61.45. Buying in around 66 to 67, run it up to TP1, 80, 82, or chase it into all-time highs. Again, guys, this is not financial advice. You need to do your own due diligence. This is simply what I'm seeing in the charts. This is for entertainment purposes only. I have to say that for the algorithms, guys. All right, BBAI. Again, nothing's changed on this one. What is happening here is I've called this green buy zone for a long time, and we're just getting bounces on it. So eventually we want that bounce to be accelerated and upward, and we are protected by the stop loss. My buy is at 550. Stop loss is 399. I will add, nothing's changed. I will add if we get down to that gold line like you see here and it shows support. I will add and not change my stop loss until price gets up here above $8, and then I will go break even, whatever my DCA is, around 550 or 5 if I've added lower. So I'll go break even and try to stay in the trade. Right? It's every time it taps into that green box, right now it's proven to be a buy. We're just waiting for acceleration out of this kind of range that it's in between 550 and $7. Pony, also AI thesis, guys. You want to keep an eye on this price right here. IPO and all-time high anchored VWAP at 1490. That's the kind of the bottom of this buy zone. Um, but we are in an uptrend since it smashed down on this low in November. So we're not sweeping. We maintain higher highs and higher lows coming out of this trend. That's how it's an uptrend. Look, higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. If we break this VWAP, then chances are it's going to retrace stronger because it breaks trend, right? So currently, I like a buy in around 1490 to 1500, but if this zone holds and flips like it did here, this turns red if it continues up, right? My gold line around 21, that's a median price. 2144 would be my TP1. TP2 would be 2501, the all-time high. So it's just a matter of dabbling in it if you like the AI thesis, right? You could size in here, you could size in here, put a stop loss somewhere that's comfortable for you. Stop loss one, if you buy in here, could be tight at 14, a little wider at 13 and a half, or very wide on the bottom of this wick where there's at 10, 13 if you want to hold this for a long time. And then, of course, you would trail it upwards, get your stop loss to break even, and then trail outside the daily beta to try to swing this. What I mean is, there's different mathematical formulas you can use. Just measure the last six candles and do an average. And if the average is $6, then you need to have a stop loss that is wider to than $6. We call that chandeliering. That's not the textbook way to do it, but it's kind of the hillbilly math way that you can do it to determine the daily ATR. QBTS, this is one that I own. I've owned Pony in the past. I don't now. This is the resistance zone. Same thing though. We are in an uptrend of setting higher highs and higher lows. It is compressing a bit here in almost an ascending wedge, not quite an ascending triangle, but an ascending wedge. And the key price here for this thing is basically 29.60. And we need to close above that and then get a nice volume spike to accelerate up. You can see I set this alert on my last video because that's 32.40 is the key price to break because we need to sweep this high and we'd like to do it with volume in order to continue up. Or I think it heads to 37.62 into that area if we take that out on the daily. I like this one. I own it at $8. My stop loss is right here at just below this wick at 1840 or something like that. So that's a very wide stop loss. I was much in the money here, and then I let almost six figure. I got draw or not drawn down, but gave up about $100,000 in unrealized profit because I'm trying to stay in this thing for years. But my stop loss locks in 300%. So onward and upward in that one. Your true buy signal, if you haven't bought it, would be closing above where my cursor is here. Then you have a resistance zone here. And then if that closes, that would confirm buy. And you'll watch as my patented matrix momentum indicator. If this breaks, you will get green indication that it is aggressively bullish because I know how it calculates. All right. IonQ. I said this last week, and I'll say it again. Nothing's changed. It's trapped between my buy zone and these VWAPs, and if that breaks, it's going to be the all-time high VWAP, right? So if you like the thesis, you don't sell the top, you buy the bottom down here, and then you either TP1 at these resistive VWAPs, or you just go break even as it comes up here and try to stay in the trade. Okay, so this is a discount buy. The true buy would be a 2-day close filter above $56. Discount buy anywhere from 45 to 37 if you like the thesis. Probably on the top side because you can see prices proving to be support, and every time it finds support, volume spikes to the buy side. So buyers right now are willing to buy at that discount price. But of course, set a stop loss. So it would look something like, let's say we bought on at 45. Well, let's not use a Fibonacci. Let's grab the right tool. Let's say we buy in around 45, give or take a percentage. Your widest stop loss would be that wick in the width of the box at 37, then try to run it to the all-time high at 56. But as it goes in your direction, you can reduce, right? So if you need a lower stop loss, you can use this candle's wick here and then run it up. If you want to try to stay in the trade, probably what would happen is it's going to hit this price. Let me extend these out. It'll probably run up, hit that price, come down and tap that VWAP, and then try to break out. So you got to stay outside of that bounce if you want to hold it longer. Otherwise, you take the money and run. So I'm gonna leave that trade plan in there and we'll see how it works out. I'm gonna go a little bit wider. So that's IonQ. You can always look to the right to see where those prices are. QUBT, again, quantum computing. Right now, guys, I see a lot of resistance in this stock. It did sell off pretty strong through its all-time high anchored VWAP, which is that red line. It's trying. I put this green support line to illustrate where support is in price, and then we have overhead resistance at 13, downside support at 950, but there's significant resistance here at 14 to $15. Okay, so this would be nothing more than a thesis buy in this consolidated range. The technicals on this are not looking as strong as some of the other ones. The true buy signal would be a break of this level up here. So 1550. So you could begin sizing in to get a better price. But in doing so, I'd recommend uh, a decent stop loss. I mean, a tight stop loss, right? In case it pulls back and you can get a better price. Certainly, if it pulls back to 950 to $10, I would consider this a buy. At $12, excuse me, I'm going to wait. All right, guys, let's talk about metals. So, if the thesis is indices are going to drop on tariff news, most macro experts say metals should push. So, we'll get into gold. Gold on the daily. So, where is right here? All right. So, our previous meeting, this box was red. The previous weekly video, this box was red. We broke through strongly, come down and retested it. And I told everybody, actually, towards the end of week, Thursday and Friday, everybody's like, oh my gosh, gold broke out. It hit its price target of $4,600. We're never going to get there again. I said, nope. We never really strongly confirmed this. So I recommended buys in around 45.50, give or take a zone. And a lot of people caught that and now are realizing some profits. If you're in this right now off this, then and you want to run it higher, you need to put a stop loss in. Let's say you bought somewhere just on the other side of that box, right? So 45.25, and then just try to trail it upwards. So this was a strong close for the week in gold, and like I said, experts are saying it's probably going to head upward. If you own it long, I put a stop loss right here before that first all-time high anchored VWAP test, or all-time high anchored VWAP around 44.75 or 44.50, somewhere in there. If you've owned it down around $3,000 or cheaper when we started recommending the buys. Silver. All right, so you can see it broke up above our resistance level, which turned that level green. We broke above, retested it. Look at this, guys. This is how this always works. Anytime you get a break, you get a retest. And now it's coming back up. And then it tried to sell down. This was some significant selling. We had a couple opportunities of 7% and 5% where I told you on this video that that is where you buy, right? You don't even look at price. You do, but you have to buy the percentage throwback because the volatility in this is just absolutely ridiculous. So look, we had a 7% retracement. We had a 4% retracement. We had a 5% retracement. These were all buys here. I zoomed into the hourly, and I told everybody that the critical close on this would be the all-time high anchored VWAP right there. And in the middle of Friday, it was way down here, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's selling off." Nope. I told everybody that metals like to buy or increase going into the second half of the New York session into the metals close, which is exactly what it did. It's not by accident that it ran to the all-time high anchored VWAP, right? So this was strong movement upward. I knew this wasn't going to break. How did I know? I actually said this in some of the chats that I control that midday this was climbing, price was climbing, but what was not supportive, guys? Volume was declining, so it wasn't enough to break that, but we did close at it. Chances are, if metals react positively, we will open above that VWAP. All right. In a normal environment where we didn't have kind of this tariff talk, it'd probably sell back down for a little bit of a discount here. But if we open above it, I'm on the hourly now just to show that VWAP. If we open above it, let it open above, and then retest it for confirmation if you don't own it. That price is still going to be around 90 to 90, 25, 90, 30. Remember, it is a wide zone. So there you go. And if you own it and you're holding it for a long time, oops, get your you own it way down there around $35 what you say. Get your stop losses here, guys. I would you can see price was very supportive here multiple times. Get it down to around $86. Somewhere in there. And then when it flips and breaks 100, you can raise it up to 99, right? You can see that resistance zone, I believe, is going to be very strong on psychology. So it goes up there and it pulls back and then it finally breaks through. You just run your stop loss right up underneath that and just keep trailing it based on the beta, which is high. Again, chandeliering, right? Which is a beta or um, range based or average true trading range based stop loss. All right, XPT, guys. Here, let me zoom out. Let's go to the daily. This is platinum. That's the buy zone right there. So you can see uh, this was the previous Friday's close. I said that on that previous day close, it was all about the all-time high anchored VWAP holding, which means we're going to push to all-time highs. That was true in all the metals that you saw. Didn't really cover that in this, but I talked about it in the previous video. You can go back and watch the previous video. Since that held, you can see every time it tapped it, it had either a false break or a close above. So this zone around that all-time high anchored VWAP is your buy still, right? Which is, we'll call it 22, 16 to 22.55 ish, right? It's wherever that all-time high anchored VWAP is, and it's going to run up as price runs up. And we're going to press into all-time highs at 2,500. Well, we are hitting some resistance in around 2,400, but once that breaks, it will flip and head higher. I like this. I like it as a buy, guys. Your discount is right here. You can put a stop loss just on the other side of that. Palladium, look, in my buy. So same thing. It held the all-time high anchored VWAP. It came down and tapped it, held it again, pierced a little bit deeper. All this was on selling momentum, but you have bottom wicks, which means there's a lot of buyers present. I think the short-term buy on this is like 16 or 1750 to 1800. Below that, definitely into this buy zone, and has proven to work out multiple times. And then we're going to run back up to its recent high at 2000. Remember, guys, the all-time high. So there's a significant price level at 2350, but look, the all-time high is 3400. This one has a lot of potential. But again, just like the others, the beta has picked up quite significantly. So I like trading this in around 1750 to 1800. You put a stop loss right below this wick at 1725, and then definitely buy in this 1625 to 1675 zone if we see it, right? Again, do your own due diligence. These are my numbers. This is what I am seeing. You need to see it for yourself. Make the decisions for yourself. Copper, it's a buy. I mean, this is a discount buy. If we get down around 550 to 560, definitely buy it. But I think there's a lot of buyers presence in this open gap. I removed a lot of the technicals on this. Macro experts have this at $12. just on AI infrastructure needing so much more, right? So let's look at this breakout. Yeah, 558 is right in the middle of that zone. The 618 is known as the golden ratio. But if you can get in 563, anywhere in here, I would start partialing in is perhaps what I'm planning on doing. You can see there's a bit of a momentum change downward with volume, and that's good. I want it to press into a discount zone. So what I'm going to be looking to doing is buying in, oops, wrong tool. Buying in, buying in, buying in, buying in. Bull, BOWL buying, just to try to get a good DCA. Buying lots. So I like pricing here on discount in uh, copper. All right, guys, that wraps up my weekend update for you guys. Like, subscribe, follow, do all that happy stuff. I post this every week for you guys. Love the trading community, love to help out. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment box or hit me in one of the groups. Have a good one, guys.